I am pretty optimistic about Street Fighter 6's long-term growth. Long-term growth being like its ability to grow its player base, its ability to grow and become maybe a little bit more mainstream, its ability to capture audiences and really engage new people. One of the reasons why is drawing from my experience with Rocket League. Rocket League is a game that I reference in tandem with Street Fighter and fighting games a lot, and that is because it was the first game that I engaged with and I tried to become really cracked at, and I engaged with the competitive scene. It was my first time getting acquainted with like the traditional esports scene, because games like League of Legends and Valorant, I kind of like Valorant. I kind of like CSGO. I like FPS. But the MOBAs, the RTSs, like they didn't appeal to me. So I wasn't acquainted with this world of esports titles, right? But Rocket League came into my life the way that it did for like a lot of people. Like a homie put me on, and it was like quarantine. It was peak quarantine. So we're hopping on Discord calls, we're doing Zoom parties, watching Attack on Titan during the day, and then at night we're running like ranked 2v2, and we're going from bronze to silver to gold. And it's like, if you've played Rocket League, you know that there is nothing like playing Rocket League the first time and playing with the mechanics and like flipping for the first time, doing your first half flip, doing your first air dribble, doing your first, like, you've jumped off the wall and dodged into the ball and it's gone in, and you're like, holy smokes, this is kind of lit. Like, there is no joy like interacting with those mechanics for the first time. Therefore, if you're a fighting game player, check out Rocket League. So Street Fighter, one of the reasons why I'm confident and bullish on Street Fighter's long-term growth is actually in spite of the developer, in spite of Capcom's penchant for doing more freaking avatar costumes and not doing what the audience is asking of them by not coming out with costumes, not coming out with a meaningful and fun to watch and fun to engage with Pro Tour. Like, I think that a lot of this is in spite of the freaking developer, and similar with Psyonix and Rocket League. But when I started rocking with Rocket League, when I started engaging with the game, and like I have leveled up past maybe silver and gold, which a lot of people will tell you that in order to get past these ranks, the early ranks in Rocket League, you literally just need raw hours in the game. Like, it is a dense game mechanically, and you just need to get familiar with what it feels like to drive in free play, to play ranked matches. Like, you just need to get familiar. You need raw hours. But then step 2 is like engaging with the content that the community puts out. And when I got to that level, I like entered a world rich with content, and I found creators and pro players and teams that were doing stuff that was like really high effort, really interesting, really appealing to a new player. And they were things like tutorials in an elevated way, which is like Musty doing I play until I lose, and he's commentating his matches throughout, and he's talking about the decisions that he's making. I remember, frick, who was it? I'll put the thumbnail up when I find it. But someone going Supersonic Legend, the highest rank with zero mechanics, and just playing the game without implementing like the high strategies. It's similar to what Broski did with like the one button Dalsum to Diamond in Street Fighter V. But it was like unique content formats that were engaging and interesting and caused me to be better at the game. And then you watch like the raw tutorials and like the elevated level of editing, of sophistication around the guides and the content. So that's like improvement content. There was a healthy amount of improvement content that I was able to engage with. And then beyond that, you've got like really interesting spotlights and showcases to individual players, individual regions, videos that set the stakes for why I ought to be invested for RLCS this summer, right? Okay, So you've got that. You've got interesting player spotlights. In addition to that, you've also got pro players that are creating content around their games. They're stacking up in 3v3, which it's a team game. Fighting games are 1v1. But they are hopping in lobbies with other pro players on different teams and then showing the strengths of each individual player. So you've got improvement content, you've got spotlight content, and then you've got pro players making content. And I think that all of these three pillars are slowly but surely being established in the fighting game community. Those pillars will lead to a content-rich environment that a new player, can enter into the community and then fall in love with the game first and foremost. That was my experience with Rocket League. I fell in love with Rocket League, and then I was able to engage with a content-rich environment. First, probably, is make a game that people love. I think Street Fighter 6 generally is well liked. Like, the iteration is in its best launch state. I mean, it's been a year, but so you create a game that people can fall in love with. Check, they've done it. That you can play with your friends and you can have long conversations about, like, oh dude, I freaking finally did the DP, OD DP on Wake Up, and like it crushed your media option, and you're like kind of getting acquainted with these things. But then going on YouTube and trying to, like, okay, how the frick do I fight against Bison, who has now been neutered by this latest patch? It's probably still gonna be good. How do I play against this character? And I go on YouTube and now I see a Brian F video, I see Chris F doing tutorial content, I see Trunks doing high-level master content, I see Smug doing fun content, I see Diaphone doing, like, all these different things. Like, what the point that I'm trying to get at is now we're meeting those requirements, this kind of like mental framework that I've got for a game succeeding well, not just on the merits of its own gameplay, but the environment surrounding content. We know that this is an important role. This is a hurdle that any game needs to cross if it's going to have broad appeal. Apex, great content. Valorant, great content. You know, and people doing it really well, like the streamers, the not only YouTube content but live content. You've got like all of these different areas being hit, and I think that Rocket League or Street Fighter rather, is poised to succeed on this front now. The game is sick. No matter what people say about throw loops, no matter what people say about freaking low forward drive rush, I love Street Fighter, and now I get to engage with the community via the content and increase my level of engagement with the lore, the storylines, the individual players. The reason why I'm even recording this video is I am on my commute. Brian F drops the Mena RD Trash Talk episode, and now I get to hear about the 300-man Street Fighter 4 locals that were going on in the Dominican Republic. And this adds a new layer of humanity to a player that I've just seen as like super braggadocious, super freaking sick at the game, like a perennial top 8er, someone that you expect to win at all these tournaments. But now I get a new layer of humanity added on top of it, a new layer of understanding, and some negative aspects. It's like you start to form a parasocial relationship where you're like, oh, you know, I'm friends with this content creator, or I know this Rocket League content creator personally, therefore I can, you know, engage with them at that level. I think that content, and we're only on the cusp of achieving those things. Although these content creators for fighting games have been doing it for years, it's not to discount the amount of years, it's actually to say, look what 5 to 8 years of creating content consistently will produce. Is like someone engaging with your content for the first time and saying, wow, this person has 130,000 subscribers and it seems like they started yesterday. No, it's just the first time that you engage with their content. But as a matter of fact, like if you look at the oldest videos on a lot of these people's channels, it's like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 combo videos, and they've been doing it freaking for 5 years now. And now it's like synergizing with the algorithm, like the algorithm is picking it up and putting it on your feed, and what you think as a viewer is like, oh, this person's an overnight success type thing. But all that to say, it is really cool that we're at the place that we're at in terms of content in Street Fighter and fighting games. And it's also to say, make content, make stuff yourself. My camera is going crazy right now. So to me, it is the point where we end the video. If you are an aspiring pro player, if you're a bubble player that's like outside of the top 50, top 100 maybe, make content. Show your experience. My camera is going nuts. See ya.